Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody here today on this beautiful day. I saw the governor here shortly after the blizzard. He was at the DOT facility. So I welcome him back on a beautiful spring day. On a side note, there is some other news that I want to mention because it speaks to the partnership that the town of Old Saybrook has with the state. For 15 years, the town of Old Saybrook has been trying to buy land called the Preserve, 1,000 acres in Westbrook, Essex, and Old Saybrook. This governor, with the DEP, stepped up to the plate and put $3.4 million on the table, and the town of Old Saybrook put $3 million on the table, and private fundraisers raised several other $1 million. I'm happy to announce that today, the money, the state is $3.4 million poorer, and the town, all that money has changed hands. As of today, the documents are being recorded on the land records in Old Saybrook today, and the town and the state will be joint owners of 1,000 acres of 930 acres in the town of Old Saybrook. So thank you, Governor, for that.
Thank you.
I wanted to mention that. So today begins an important step as we mark the beginning of a very critical infrastructure project and move towards completion of a multi-year, carefully planned expansion of the Old Saybrook parking lot and station. Better housing options will also be available for our region, and a complete rebuild of the road, as you see it right up to Route 1, will also be constructed in 2016. The vision was well crafted and has now coalesced with the assistance of this governor, the hard work of local officials, and private developers who had the wherewithal to see their project to the finish line. Our train station is an invaluable resource to our town. Communities, and you might read this in the paper, communities all over the state are clamoring for train stations in their communities. With the upgrade to this parking, the state is preserving and enhancing this asset, our train station, which will bring more folks to our lovely downtown community. But the state is also delivering on its commitment for better public transportation, making Shoreline East no longer an afterthought, but a better choice than driving on Connecticut's congested highways. This parking lot has been designed also to accommodate Ninetown Transit, and I think we have a representative from Ninetown Transit here. There he is. We were very careful in making sure that buses could turn around rather than in some of the unsafe areas in the current parking lot. Transportation is near and dear to this governor's heart, and he and Commissioner Rediker are delivering. I might also add that this parking has the effect of preserving a very historical cemetery right down the road. The town does its best to maintain this important landmark, and removing the street parking along the fence will greatly assist Old Saybrook in keeping this sacred place protected. Truly, this state investment is turning a chronic problem of parking into a performing asset. In conjunction with the state investment, Old Saybrook is also in the design stages to rebuild North Main Street, which is from here to Route 1. We're doing that in 2016 with a $1 million local transportation capital improvement grant, also known as LOTSIP. Beautiful acronym. No more will folks have to worry at night about walking in relative darkness on a road with no sidewalks, and I get those calls, I can assure you. Instead, convenient lighted sidewalks will become a gateway to welcome visitors to downtown Old Saybrook. This governor has greatly assisted communities and municipalities with accessing LOTSIP funds. It used to be that the towns had to apply directly to the federal government for these funds and deal with the corresponding red tape. Governor Malloy's administration stepped up to the plate by having the state access the federal money for the towns. The governor smartly used state resources more accustomed to federal interaction, thereby freeing up town resources for other uses. Thank you, Governor. I can attest that this streamlined process has made a huge difference in Old Saybrook and in municipalities all across the state. So thank you, Governor, for coming down today. Thank you, Commissioner Rediker, and all who have worked so hard to make this happen, including all our local officials. Come back in 1 year, and this will be a much different and better place. And with that, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Rediker.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. You could not have delivered my speech any better. Because this, for me, is really the coalescence of efforts at every single level to make things work faster, better, all for the good of a town, all for the good of the residents of the town, all for the good of the commuters, and in the end, for transportation at the core of that kind of activity. Having lots of work was a vision just a couple of years ago, and we have an example of it working. Having TOD work is a vision for every town, and it's working here. Having a rail system work is a vision for every town, and it's working here. So Old Saybrook is probably the preeminent example of how this can actually work for everyone all at once. Old Saybrook's a great station with great service. We're happy that we've seen expansion of Shoreline East service in the last couple of years, both off-peak and weekends. There's more to come. Read Let's Go CT, and you'll hear about all of the future that we have planned for this line and this area. When I think about this as a multimodal investment, including bus access, new bus shelters, new bike facilities, new pedestrian facilities, it's truly the premier example of how to do it right. Before I introduce the governor, I'd like to thank the team of Dayton Construction, who's doing already a fabulous job to bring this parking facility into operation by this fall. Bill Finger and Brian Robick of East Point, the developer of the new residential units. And I'd like to thank my staff, Tom Maziarz too, at the planning level, as well as the construction management and oversight group for helping to make this happen. We have Representative Devin Carney, Representative Noreen Kokaruta, Representative Jesse McLaughlin, and First Selectman Kathy Eno here. And with that, thank you for being here. We'll have you say a few words if you'd like in a few moments, but I must introduce the governor, our chief transportation official, Governor Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Carl, if I'd known you were going to say all those nice things about me, I would have scheduled it before Election Day. So. No, it's great to be with everybody, and actually, Carl and I have worked closely together on this and other projects, and I appreciate your leadership in getting all of this done. You're a brave man to talk a community through the process and have them trust you in that process. This is the right kind of development, right sized for a community like this one, and your leadership in having those discussions is one of the reasons that we're here to celebrate this success. I mean, 200 additional parking spaces, 196, I guess, right? The actual number is really quite remarkable for us to be able to get this done. As Commissioner Rediker has said, we have already beefed up service along this line and want to do much more. And having, quite frankly, that access to those additional parking spaces will entice us, will enable us to actually do what we think really is necessary in the state of Connecticut when it comes to transportation. Carl's comment about 95 being overburdened is absolutely true. It is allowing multiples of what the capacity of what it was originally designed for. Of course, now, and significant portions of the day and of the week, it's not operating appropriately because it is simply overburdened. And we're going to have to address that on the road system itself. But many of the early investments that we would make in our transportation plan that we've laid out there, and I have to say there's very little resistance to the ideas of what we need to do. There may be some discussion that has to take place about how we pay for it over the next 50 years, but people actually understand in Connecticut that the transportation system is broken and that things, here comes a train, and that things have to be done to allow us to move forward. Now, this is an unbelievable opportunity if, in fact, we move forward, not just on this project in this great community because of the great community leadership and our willingness to invest. But we could repeat this up and down this line and through all of our communities in the Metro North line, on the line to Waterbury, on the line to Danbury. We could get people off the highway system and move us closer to having a system that actually works both on rail and on the highways, allows us to contribute more money to local governments to make sure that they're addressing their needs, particularly in light of bridges that need to be replaced. And that's what this whole program is about. And that's why we seek opportunities to talk about a transportation future in Connecticut that actually exists if we commit ourselves over the long haul to getting it done. Otherwise, we will be destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, which would be a couple of more generations of underinvestment. I don't want that to happen. You know, these wonderful people get to serve in public office for a period of time. I do, Carl does, the commissioner does. Developers get rich. But we have, I think, an obligation to leave the state in a better... Carl, did you do that?
I did.
We have an obligation to leave the state in a better position, transportation-wise, than we found it, and as it has grown out since we've been here. Now, I do want to say that the housing component is great. I think the idea that these units will come on board, people will be able to walk to the train don't even have to use our parking spaces. They can use their own. Get on the train and get to the community in which they want to work is really quite remarkable. And I know we have a great developer that's allowing this project to move forward. I want to entice communities to engage in that same process of overcoming their fears about parking and about housing, to understand that that could be a great strength and add tax revenue to the community and allow the citizens of the community to live a better life. And that's what we're trying to do. We have to bring these things together. Transportation investment, housing investment, educational improvement, economic development. Tie all of those things together, and we're going to be way ahead of this. Not in many decades from now, but in a relatively short period of time, as people understand that we are serious about making the level of commitment that we need to make to overcome our transportation difficulties. I have to say of Jim Redeker and the team that he's put together, he's a remarkable guy, very proud of what they are accomplishing as well. It's a good day, not just because the weather's in agreement, but because we're actually celebrating a community coming together, getting the job done, a state government that is not attempting to dictate, but is actually trying to work with communities to get the job done as well. So thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
I'd like to ask Bill Finger to come up and describe a little bit about what his terrific investment is in this development. Bill.
Thank you, Commissioner. Governor Malloy, Commissioner Redeker, First Selectman Fortuna, and other honored guests. Governor, as you said, and as we all know, TODs are an essential pillar of your transportation plan. And I'm certainly pleased to be standing up here with you and the Commissioner to showcase a model example of what the public sector and the private sector can do working cooperatively together. Approximately 3 years ago, my partner Brian Robick and I approached the owner of the property where we will be developing our project. I will say a very patient property owner and a very cooperative property owner. This could not have been possible without such a property owner. In the ensuing years, we met with all the regulatory agencies in the town, addressing their questions, their concerns. At the same time, we made a point of engaging with local organizations and groups within the community. We met with the Chamber of Commerce, the Main Street Merchants Association, the Hope Partnership. At the same time, we worked cooperatively with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, making sure that our site plans for the parking lot and what we were proposing would be coordinated and work well together. We discussed easements, pedestrian connections for our projects, and I think we've all succeeded in laying the groundwork for what will be a very successful project. So to describe a little bit about what we're going to be building, what our company, East Point, in conjunction with our partner, Saybrook Station, will be developing is 186 multifamily rental apartment units, luxury units. Of those 186 units, 20% of the units will be affordable units pursuant to the town's incentive housing zone. So of that 186 units, 38 will be affordable units. That will effectively triple, almost triple the number of affordable units in the town of Old Saybrook. The apartments will be a mix of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. They'll be spread throughout 8 buildings. We'll also have a clubhouse. Each apartment, will have 9-foot ceilings, energy-efficient appliances, and balconies or terraces. We'll have a community clubhouse with a gathering room and cafe and a state-of-the-art fitness center. In addition, we'll have a resort-style swimming pool, outdoor cooking and bar area, and a fire pit. Other amenities will include a dog park, a bicycle loaner program available for residents, bicycle storage, and an electrical vehicle charging station. In keeping with the connectivity goals of a transit-oriented development, we'll have sidewalks throughout our development, and we will have a direct sidewalk connection into the state's commuter parking lot. And with that sidewalk connection, our residents will be able to walk through their community, through the parking lot, onto a sidewalk that takes them right to the train station and to the Connecticut Transit and Nine Towns Transit bus stops. With this development, we'll be expanding the housing choices in the area to a segment that does not currently exist, that being modern, quality, multifamily apartment rentals. The housing option is virtually non-existent within the shoreline communities in Middlesex County, and will now be available to Old Saybrook and its neighboring coastal towns in order to retain young adults as well as attract young knowledge workers, a typically high discretionary spending demographic. Additionally, empty nesters seeking to downsize will now have high-quality housing options and will enable them to continue to live in their community and maintain the close connections to family, friends, and to their communities. The benefits to local merchants will be the added feet on the ground generated by our residents and their guests who will be able to easily walk or bike into town, not to be lost in the discussion, and the fact that our development, I'm sure First Selectman, you'll be appreciative of this, will be adding significantly to the tax rolls in the town of Old Saybrook. We'll become one of the highest property tax payers within the town. If you look around us right now, we see many of the ingredients of a TOD. We have train station, obviously, bus stops, we have commercial, retail. The one missing ingredient is housing. When our development is completed, the full TOD project, that whole picture frame will now be engulfed by a true TOD, something that I believe the town of Old Saybrook, the state, and certainly my partners and I will be very, very pleased to have contributed and be a part of this. So, Governor, thank you. First Selectman Fortuna, thank you.
Knowing that the governor is always a busy guy, we'll try to keep the few remarks that are left brief if we could, but we have state reps here, and I want to thank them for their support in everything that we do, particularly on the transportation front. So one at a time, come on up.
Sure. Thank you very much for coming here. I'm Devin Carney. I'm the state representative for the 23rd District, and I represent four of the greatest towns, actually the greatest towns in the state of Connecticut, in my opinion. Lyme, Old Lyme, Westbrook, and of course my hometown right here in Old Saybrook. I'm thrilled that this project is starting here with the additional parking spots. I think that's fantastic. As I've mentioned to other folks who have train stations in their districts, one of the biggest issues is parking. If you try to park in a Fairfield train station parking lot, good luck. I think it's easier to get New England Patriots season tickets than it is to get a parking spot there. But this will be fantastic to have folks come from all other towns here to Old Saybrook. Get on the train, which does so many good things for the community. It improves the economy. Folks can come here before they get on the train, go into town, shop at locally owned businesses like the Saybrook Country Barns, have lunch at the Monkey Farm, or actually one of my first jobs, Pizza Works, right over there. It prevents congestion. Folks in this state spend, on average, about 40 hours a year. That's a full work week sitting in traffic, and that's awful. We can do better than that. And finally, of course, it prevents pollution. I think we all, this day and age, really have to be mindful of that. So I just really want to thank the governor, the commissioner, and of course our wonderful first selectman, Carl Fortuna, for doing this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pans out. Thanks a lot.
I just want to point out that Carl's guaranteeing me a table at the Monkey Farm next time I'm in town.
They have great lunch. You should go. Stop by.
Just briefly, I'm State Rep Noreen Kokaruda. I represent Madison and Durham, and I was happy to be here when I heard Carl talk about other towns are clamoring. I come from a town that's clamoring, and I'm delighted to hear the governor say that this can be emulated throughout the shoreline. And I do congratulate you, Governor, on your leadership here. Those of us who have lived in the shoreline and have watched the growing traffic issues change over the last 15 years are welcoming working with you. And just finally, just because his boss is here, I did want to give a shout out to Commissioner Redeker. I have found, being up in Hartford 5 years, it's never been easier than it is right now to call DOT and ask for help. And I look like a real champion in my town because of things we've gotten done, but I think it's only fair today that I put the credit where it really deserves. So thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, Governor, for being here today. Very exciting project.
Very quickly, my name is Jesse McLaughlin. I represent the 35th District of Westbrook, Clinton, and Killingworth. And I just wanted to express my gratitude seeing economic development tied in with affordable housing as folks look for transition into gainful employment. I'm so grateful to see access to one of the greatest stumbling blocks to accessing employment, which is dependable transportation. So I just want to commend all the leaders here that have made this happen. The cooperation between state and local government, it really does fill my heart to see it happen in a cooperative and gainful manner. So thank you so much, gentlemen.
Hi, I'm from Killingworth, which is not clamoring for a train station, but I'm really here to represent Rivercog, which was in on this project at the very beginning, and this project represents the best in regional planning. So we're very grateful for the state's support and hoping to expand our regional efforts. Thanks.
So I'll take if there's any questions on point, I'll take those.
Can you address what was said earlier about overcoming the fear factor when it comes to developing housing, particularly affordable housing, in concert with these?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there are people who, and listen, change is always hard, right? I spent 4 years talking about how hard change is, but what we're trying to do is do this with people. Clearly, an additional. I don't think there's anyone who believes that those parking spaces aren't going to be used, or having better access to retail and other experiences doesn't make any. I don't think there are anyone who doesn't think that makes sense. And on the housing side, this is a great. I mean, just look at this thing. This is an unbelievable project. Great design, great architecture. Who wouldn't want it in their home? On the other hand, in their town. On the other hand, there's always folks who say nay. They change is terrible and we shouldn't have any change. But then if you don't have change, you end up with a parking lot that doesn't have enough cars for the people who want to use transit to get off the highway, and you don't have a sidewalk that allows people to get to the community, and you don't have market rate housing with some number of units set aside for people who are just need a little extra help, and probably will come from this community or the 9 communities, and allow them to stay in a place that they otherwise wouldn't be able to stay in. So I think that's what I was referencing, Paz, is just that sometimes these things just have to be talked through. But government needs the tools, like we do here with respect to a $5 million investment that we're making, as well as other investments that we're making with the community and grants. This is important stuff. So patience, actually having a conversation, having it facilitated by appropriate responding leaders is very important. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Good to be with you.
Make it up to you. No. Take you to breakfast next week.